got no mark, but I think they're ready.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, so welcome to the 1 o'clock meeting, general session. Welcome to the folks on Zoom. I will ask Secretary Treasurer Ed Warner to call the roll.
Okay. Scott Harwitz,
I'm here.
Ed Warner, I'm present. Chip Marin.
Here.
Present. Joe McLaughlin.
Here.
And Matt Parsons.
Here.
We're all here, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Dan. Okay, so for everybody's information, our next work session will be Monday, October 7th, 2024, here at Town Hall, 9:30 a.m., followed by our regular meeting at 1 p.m. We have a lot of communications that came in through the mail to us, so I will dispense with reading them. You can all review that in your packet. I would like to make a motion for that. I'll read all that in. It's going to take forever. Seconded by Trustee Parsons and McLaughlin. All in favor?
All right.
We do have some discussions on, and I will defer to Secretary Treasurer Ed Warner for the 2025 Trustees proposed budget discussion.
All right, we have a proposed budget discussion. We've been working on our tax line for the last 2 years very diligently, and we have Jim Olivo here, who's our accountant person, who's been working on the numbers with all the people in the town, our board. So, Jim, would you like to, fill us, the board in, and the rest of the public on where we stand as of today
With our proposed budget.
You have in front of you a proposed budget. This budget is the exact same budget that was circulated via some emails over the last couple of days. In addition, this budget was supplied to the town with amendments that were worked through, commonly known as Schedule A. And Schedule A is one of the pages in this budget. Schedule A memorializes the arrangement between the town and the trustees as to how the town will supply services to the trustees, which are based in fact on services that they actually do for us. The reason for this is that there was a law passed on July 21st, 2022 that enables this board to set a tax levy. They are now empowered to adopt and submit their annual budget, which includes that tax levy. Last year, at this time, we were under the guidance of this law, and we held a process last fall going into basically the same process we're doing today. This is the filing of the proposed budget. You should note it is not a final budget. The budget will not be finalized until you have held a public hearing on that. And that public hearing will be held on October 15th. We are following this process as outlined by council as an interpretation of that new law that came through based on the July 21st, 2022 law. This particular budget estimates that in our current year, we're going to be about almost $60,000 over budget on our revenues. This is a good thing. We are also going to see a significant savings on our expense line of approximately $162,000, leading to a surplus calculation for the current year of around $179,000. That is trustee revenue that has been exceeded and remains with the trustees within the trust. Our expected revenue for 2025 from the trust is $1,062,000. The expected revenue from taxes, which is the first tax line for this group, is just under $2 million, $1,988,000. This incorporates all of those expenses in Schedule A, which has driven our contract line up because now we contract with the town for all of those items. Salaries except that was always through paid directly to the employees through the tax levy, so that's not a change. We are reimbursing the town for the debt service, which we've always done. But there were cost shares on employees that we have been doing historically that because we are now paying them, we're not sharing anymore, they're ours. So we will be paying our employees directly and accounting for it directly, not paying a percentage of the person and all of their benefits. We are responsible for the payment of that. However, the employees remain the employees of the town. But they will be funded out of our contracts line. They will also be accounted for within the town's budget in the old 8,700 account for salaries. This budget does not increase our staff. We have left the staff levels the same. We have moved some expenses out of salaries into that contracts line because we're not necessarily employing a specific person for it. We're contracting with the department. This is, as the board is aware, this is the $42,500 we're going to reimburse the town for dock inspections rather than hiring our own dock inspector. We'll be contracted with the town for that. We do not have authority to issue bonds for projects. So as we go forward with the relationship, if we are looking to do major capital projects that need funding, we would have to go through the town to do that, as we would be under their bond rating, as what's in accounting parlance is known as a component unit. We're separately governed. We have the authority to modify this budget as we need to, and we are solely responsible for the implementation of this budget. Within the papers that you have, there's also a little bit of a historic page that shows your fund balance within the trustee fund as to how that balance has grown to $1,700,000 as we've anticipated at the end of this year. I do want to mention, and this is a little bit outside, you receive a report from the Controller's Office every month. And on the bottom of that report is a fund balance report. And I do think during the next few weeks you should take a look at that, because one of the things that it does is it tries to anticipate fund balance, but it doesn't really anticipate any expenditures happening for the last 3 months. So it overstates your fund balance until you get to the end of the fiscal year. That's because, as a bit of an education, your budget is highly seasonal. Your revenues come in strong June, July, August, and they die at the end of August. So you're not gathering any more revenues outside of building permits. And building permits is your strongest revenue. But you have expenses ongoing to the end of the fiscal year. So if you look at like a July or August, you might think you've got a $2 million fund balance, but you've got expenses that are going to go down and eat that down. This is the actual fund balance we're anticipating at the end of the year. You have about a 3-week period, 4-week period, where any changes can be made to this budget. We can add, we can subtract. Realize that we would probably be required under the arrangements we have with the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOA. We've agreed to this as the tax levy line. So anything we do now, I think, would have to come out of our own revenues and the use of that fund balance. So I think that's about where we are here. I understand that the town will be taking up the MOA tomorrow. That will solidify Schedule A and basically write it into stone. Also, it will memorialize and make much more transparent the arrangements that this board has with the town. Are there any questions from the members of the board?
I mean, I just, no question from myself, just a kind of underlining of your commentary, and that is that this has been an exercise that's been a long time coming. And we're going to have a resolution on our general session also being walked on, for the purposes of signing the memorandum of agreement between the town, because it is better transparency for the public to see exactly where their tax dollar is going, especially when it comes to the protection, the preservation of natural resources, and things like public access, basically the economic engine, to the entire community. The oldest elected board, in the country, providing what's so vital to all of our quality of life here in the town of Southampton, should be stable and it should be transparent. And I think that this is a very important moment in history, generationally, especially for a board that suffered, for 400 years, and just even in the last decade, has been challenged with, preserving their finances and preserving their land and preserving, access to beaches and, historical traditional uses of the waterfront that have gone on for centuries. And I think that it is, much more efficient to do that transparency and from a point of stability. And I think it serves the people of the town a lot better to kind of know you're built on solid financial grounds, which helps you make much better decisions with what you call trust revenue when you are taking on projects that everybody in this town enjoys to, be there on the waterfront, whether it's boat ramps that need to be, repaired or rebuilt, whether it's fishing piers that need to be, resurrected for safety and for recreation and for, what we do around here. You have to have, sound financial footing to be able to enter into agreements, to your point, where we still would be working with the town on bonding, and they have excellent bond rating, which is an asset to everybody in the town. But you also have to be able to pay the debt service, which requires trust revenue, and this is for the benefit of everybody. So, I think this is one of the most important budgets that the Board of Trustees has ever passed in history. For that sake, because it's going to be the most transparent, and it's going to be the one that puts the trustees on the soundest financial footing to continue to provide services and protections for the people of the town of Southampton. So I think that I'd like to thank you for your involvement in that as well.
It's been a pleasure. The next formal part of this process is your public hearing, which is going to be on October 15th. The public will have an opportunity to comment. This document needs to be posted on the trustees' website. The instructions are in the memo that you have with it, and that is in compliance with the law and the process. And it's exactly the same process we followed last year. And hopefully, all will go smoothly. If there are questions, comments, things that need clarification, the board is free to reach me anytime you need.
And it's a budget neutral exercise too.
It is
for the most part.
It is taking the funding from one pocket and putting it into the other. It is not changing the funding of what you do. It's representing the funding for what you actually work on. And I think it recognizes the actual cost of this a whole lot better than it has been in the past.
Right. And it better memorializes the services that are needed by the trust to provide the services that the people of the town need. So when you're memorializing services for people of the town on a transparent basis, it's a win-win for everybody.
It is.
Yes, it's been a very interesting exercise, budget process, working with you for the last 2 years. Many people thought that we would never get this accomplished. I knew if we persisted, and I know Scott, as the leader here, he was a person that was very diligent working with you and the town board, which, most people now will understand that we have our independence financially from the town board, but we're still going to work with the town board. We're still going to need them. They're still going to need us. We all have the same constituency base. So it's really important that we move forward in a transparent way and people will understand how we work. And I think it's good for the public to see how we've, worked through this process it's a good understanding for the public to really have a conception of what it is like to go through a budgeting process, which we do. We have achieved, and as of tomorrow, hopefully the town board will sign the MOU, and we will have our president sign our part of it, and then we can call it a day, and then start, 2025, a new season. So thank you very much for your hard work.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, gentlemen?
Good government looks like.
Okay. Any further discussions relative to this? We're gonna have an official public hearing on the 15th, right? But this is just the first part of it. All right, I know we have, move on to the next.
Yep.
Okay, we have another discussion on it. You have, Trustee Warner.
Mary Ann Eddy and the Sag Harbor Water Quality Initiative. We've worked with Mary Ann and the Sag Harbor Water Quality Initiative for the last few years, basically monitoring the waters in and around Sag Harbor, working with the East Hampton Trustees and Chris Gobler, which he has presented a couple of times to us, the outcome of his monitoring. So, Mary Ann, would you like to give us a little overview of what you're doing down in Sag Harbor?
First of all, am I supposed to sign in on this?
Yes,
Okay, let me do
please.
that.
Like your autograph.
Yes.
God bless.
Okay. Well, I see new faces, people that I don't recognize from a year ago. Nice to see new faces. So yes, here we go. So, just forward, right? So yes, this is the Sag Harbor Water Quality Initiative. You all have been very loyal. You've supported us. This is our 6th year coming back and asking for initial annual help in this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an overall view of kind of what we did, but not go through like some of the tedium of not the tedium, but the whole length and breadth of what it is that Mr. Gobler, Dr. Gobler showed us. So his conclusion, so just this top level, that in general, the water conditions on average were good. Impairments that do occur are low oxygen, algal blooms, and pathogenic bacteria detected at levels exceeding state and federal guidelines. Not universally, but for more than time to time. The Haven Sump, which is East Hampton, but it's part of the whole picture, is contaminating the beach, mitigating runoff from the beach to reduce the levels of fecal bacteria should be a priority because this region is open for shellfishing and swimming. Treating the land runoff from the beacon, we've talked about that when I've been here before. The beacon, there is a big confluence of storm drains there that gets pushed out into the bay. We've talked about that, how that's like a really bad situation. And Windmill Beach, which I think I've talked about before, but I'm going to focus on a bit more today. And then upgrading the septic systems, connecting homes to the sewage treatment plant will be necessary to reduce these impairments. And he suggests continual monitoring. Of course he does. Okay. I did it. Okay. So just to give you an overview here, this is Windmill Beach. You probably all know Windmill Beach. It's right next to the wharf. It's also, if you take a look at this is where people come and they go, oh, they can take their little babies there, right? It's protected. It's out of the wind. There's not boat traffic. There's not a lot of swimmers there. But it's not so great, right? So this is what we saw for fecal coliform bacteria. Oh, thank you. So over here on the far left, that's actually testing the water right there at Windmill Beach. And all the way over on the right is the outfall pipe. There is a pipe that comes down and attaches all the storm drains all the way from the library. If you know Sag Harbor, it comes down there and into the commercial district. Storm drains come in. And then there's a manhole right by the windmill there before it goes back underground and out into the water, right? So we saw that the Windmill Beach, the water there at the beach was showing high pathogen levels. So we started testing the outfall pipe. We got DPW, they come and they raise the big, iron lid off of it and we grab samples. And that's really where that's one of the sources. So we saw that last year, but Enterococcus, same story, Windmill Beach, all the way on the left with the blue, sporadic high levels. And then over there, the outfall pipe, again, has even higher levels. This is supported also by what Surfrider has done, because Surfrider has been testing this area since 2018. And you can see it doesn't really change. It's sort of like the same, right? The red line is sort of over and above whatever anybody would want their children to be swimming in. But this is the more interesting story, because this is going back to the Gobler's study. So if you take a look again, all the way on the left is the Windmill Beach outfall pipe. That's the pipe coming down through Main Street. And the red, the very tippy top, you see a little skinny line there, that is human. This is the microbial source tracking, where you take a look at the pathogenic bacteria and you can tell whether or not it's human, birds, deer, or a combination of dog and small mammals. So we have dogs and small mammals, we have a tad bit of bird, and we have just a tiny bit of human pathogens that come in there. But if you take a look at Windmill Beach, which is right next to it, you see a much thicker band of red up there. So where's it coming from? It's not coming from the storm drains. So what we did this year is we looked at the transient docks along Long Wharf, and south, mid, and the furthest one out, that's where the human pathogens are coming from the boats. So what is all this testing getting us? So the first thing is that it got us to institute checking Y valves, especially there, not especially, but right there. And this year we inspected 109 boats since May 1st, and 2 were issued summons. I asked Bob Morey, and I'm so happy to see they now put that on a spreadsheet. So we have 109 boats there, and it shows that they were sent an info packet, which is really a postcard that they sent to all the registered addresses, whether or not they did an inspection, results, the date, and this is, they track the Y valve numbers. So here we go, we've got 109 of them there. So I think that's a pretty significant improvement, and I hope we stick right on that, and that we get to see some improvement in terms of the testing that we do. This is another thing that's been a result. These signs are on their way. Yes, we missed swimming season. They'll be there next year, but we're gonna have Little Northwest Creek, we're gonna have Windmill Beach, and Havens Beach will have 2 of these signs, and the QR code will take somebody on their phone right to the Village of Sag Harbor's website, and there's going to be the sampling results right there. So people can inform themselves. That's one of the things that we've been wanting to do. And you can't see it here. Oops. Sorry, I'm terrible. Is the QR code takes you to the village website, but you can also see there's a hotline number there. So that's the Suffolk County beach hotline number, which if beaches are closed, it'll tell people that. So it's some effort to let people know that the water, especially after the rain, may not be as pure as they would like it to be. And again, continuing on what this has gotten us, it's gotten us about $1.5 million grants for green infrastructure, both in Southampton and East Hampton. That comes not just from the CPFs, but it comes from the Baconic Estuary Partnership, which is federal money, and it comes from Suffolk County and New York State. We have 2 big, well, we have 1 big and 1 medium-sized grant pending that hopefully we're going to hear about January, February. And here, this is what they say. Going back to where, I'm sorry. All right, so the grants for the green and gray infrastructure that will impact water quality, about $1.5 million so far. We have these other ones outstanding. We got, this is important, $66,000 for a study of the watershed, which is really looking at where the water is coming from, because especially at Havens Beach, when we test the inflow down there, down at where the sump is, that long ditch that goes out to the water, when we test that as it's coming off the neighborhood, that is where the fecal coliform and the enterococcus are coming from. So what we want to do is we want to study the whole watershed and really be able to pick out the focal points of where we need to mitigate the water, the stormwater that's coming down and bringing the contaminants down. The idea is if we can get that study down, then we will do that throughout the different parts of Sag Harbor. We're just finding this really slow. It's been about 24 months. It just takes a long time, you probably know, working with the state. And then the blank here, I didn't have the blank on Friday when I had to send this in, but the blank is $17,406,165 that have been granted over multiple years for the expansion of the sewer service area. Because if you look at the majority of where our problems are, it's really down there at the waterfront. We have houses that are sitting in groundwater. We have people that can't do their wash, flush their toilet during high tide. So this is certainly, that's going to be a problem where they have their septic systems. So those are the first areas that are going to be sewered. The majority of them, about 2/3 of those houses, are in Southampton town. These again are the signs. I got a little ahead of myself. So what they say, Aiden Korish, who's the trustee who heads up grant writing, who's the one who's been spearheading this $17 million. He says every grant application has these Gobler studies attached, and that working with him carries a lot of weight when we go to New York State and the various places that are giving us this money. And that when the County Estuary Partnership had their 5-year accreditation, they called us champion for water quality. This is what we're planning to do this year. We're going to continue going back into the coves and looking, again, not just the water on the beach, but trying to back it up. Where are the storm drains coming in that are really contributing to the pollution that we're seeing? We're going to continue monitoring at Chip Ashore. This is another area where it's shown to have some high fecal content around the boats. We're also doing some more outflow pipes that drain into Upper Sag Harbor and Morris Cove. At the swimming beach, we're going to be looking at outfall pipes. And then this is again, we're going to continue testing at Windmill Beach, continue testing, hoping to see an improvement there at the transient dock. This is where those outfall pipes are. You probably can't see this that well, but if you know the geography there, in the lower, in the left third, the big coves there, that's where we're studying outfall pipes, because when we tested a couple of years back, that was the most polluted area in all of the coves. So addressing fecal contamination, this is the thing that Chris Gobler from his report, what he recommended. To mitigate surface runoff from the Havens pump, sump, which of course is what we want to do, but we really want to do it smart. That's why we're trying to do this Havens Beach study, which has just been slow going. We want to really mitigate the runoff at Windmill Beach, but I think more than what we saw, more than the runoff, it's really what's coming in from the boats. And I think we're really trying to take that seriously with these live valve inspections. And the signs, we're trying to follow that up with signs by giving people a good heads up that the water's not as nice and pure and simple as they may think. What's next? In addition to doing more testing this summer, what I'm really hoping is that people get behind and pass the Suffolk County Water Quality Restoration Act, which I'm sure you're all very aware of. That's going to give us some billions of dollars for a combination of grants for sewers and IA systems. And what I want to do is I want to be ready to roll. So hopefully that passes in November. Hopefully it starts accruing monies in January. What I understand is at the end of the first quarter, they will actually take the funds that have been approved from the 1/8 of a cent additional sales tax, that fund, and they will put it into the Suffolk County pot for distributing for IA systems. Right now, It's not just a matter of having your regular septic system fail. It has to be collapsing. And that's what I was told personally, because I've been on that list for a long time. So hopefully that's gonna gin it back up. And what I wanna do is, and I'm working with Ann Welker's office, she's been really helpful, because we got a big spreadsheet of all the tax map numbers in Sag Harbor. Not so helpful. There are no street addresses. So Ann's got an intern who's matching tax map numbers with street numbers. We want to see where the IA systems have already been installed, and we want to see where people like me have died on the vine. They started an application process, but because we've been held up because of the lack of money in the Suffolk County Grant Fund, they just, they're not there. So probably their applications are no longer current. You have to have current tax numbers and insurance numbers. I just want to start talking to those people now so that when we get money in that pot, we can get people right there. I don't want to wait until this thing passes. And that's probably pretty close to the end. So I was so happy to hear about how your fund balance is so attractive. I'd like to help you spend a little of it.
Easy now. Easy.
So every year you
Got
get
the message.
Take a ticket.
You get the message. So what I'd really like, is if we could step it up just a little bit. You've been very loyal. You gave $5,000, then $1,250, and then the last 4 years you've given us $2,000 a year. $2,000 would be great. Getting $2,500 would really be terrific. But I leave it with you and take any questions.
I have a question. What is Chip Marin? What is the you know, you were referencing Windmill Beach quite a bit, and you know, North Haven is in close proximity. So I was wondering what, you know, in what capacity are you working with the village of North Haven on all these projects, or is this just the Sag Harbor project?
Well, we did work with them for a couple of years in terms of their donating money, and we did some combined studies of the coves, because that's definitely a water body that we share. And they kind of went off on their own. They're kind of interested in, I don't know if they've talked to
Jenna Creek.
you, but there's, what's the name of there's a creek up there.
Jenna Creek.
Yeah, exactly right. So they're really focusing on that. They really want to dredge it. I don't want to speak for them, but that's a couple of months ago. But I've talked to
They
Terry.
did a whole presentation, so
Yeah,
Pardon
you
me?
know, but I mean,
They've been here
there's that whole, you know, there's a swath of homes there that we don't know what the extent of their septic systems are either. That are, you know, in you know, deteriorating water quality possibly for Windmill Beach. You know, it's a combined. Even though we're separate villages, it's a
Right.
shared water body.
And I really share that from a nitrogen point of view, even more than the pathogens. But maybe, I mean, we looked at the pathogens, they seem to get more intense the further out you went off Long Wharf, so maybe that is, you know, contamination coming over from North Haven. I've talked to Terry Diet. We want to work together in terms of trying to work on the Suffolk County grant application process. I'd be interested in what you have to suggest in terms of what more we could do in terms of trying to work with North Haven.
Yeah, it's just because it's the same.
We're all in
If
the
you're
same
right there.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, you do know the town runs a very ambitious pump out boat program down there, and we, you know, every year I'm going to probably say Sag Harbor probably gets as much waste taken out of the water as the whole rest of the town, and it's pretty impressive the amount of material that gets, you know, effluent that gets pumped out. But you know, as we move forward, looking at some of these scores as far as fecal coliform, maybe not everybody gets the message that they need to, you know, get their boats pumped out on a regular basis. You know, this is you know, I don't know what the outreach as far as your group or the village has with the people, and some of them are transient boats, so they come and go, so they might not even know about these programs. So, you know, an outreach to the transients as well as the people that are moored there on a, you know, seasonal basis would be a really, and I know you have a whole list of boats here, which I find very interesting. How many of them have been using the pump out boat program, and contributed to getting their waste taken out the right way?
I don't know. The first step is we went to see who's got Y valves, who's actually, Y valves are what, close off the dumping from the whatever the tanks are inside the boats so that they could spew it out. So those are tied off. We've had quite a few conversations with the fellow who operates, and I'm forgetting his name right now. And I understand that the town has offered a second boat that comes over, and that's been very helpful. And I heard this from Gene Kane, who's the trustee who manages harbor and docks, that there was going to be the option for self-pump out. But it's not self-pump out like the way it is in East Hampton. But you have to call, I guess, the harbor master, and they can get somebody to come over because there's some concern about whether or not equipment or something could be stolen. And I don't know. I think it's something I heard about 2 months ago, and I don't know to an extent if anybody has availed themselves of that.
I know the town trustees, when my father was on here 20 years ago or 15 years ago, when they initiated, 20 plus years ago, when they first initiated the pump out boat program, they had talked about a barge that would be towed around and anchored up in specific areas where there's high traffic, like West Hampton Beach, Sag Harbor Cove, and down by you. I don't know if it's something that maybe you and the town could look into, as far as, or East Hampton could look into some kind of a barge mounted pump out mechanism that people can go right up to and do it themselves. As I know, they have the pump out based at Mashut Beach or the marina in the canal, and it works out very good. People do their own pump outs and stuff like that. So making it as easy as possible to get rid of this effluent, and it's a free program that we run. So I imagine it would be the same for this. Just get grants and subsidies for it.
So I looked into that at one point a couple of years ago because there's new owners of the Sag Harbor Yacht Yard.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very interested in whether or not they were going to be able to connect to the sewer system, with these, expansions of the sewer service area. So they wanted to talk to me. I assured them that was above my pay grade to decide where that sewer, starts and ends. But I did talk to them about whether or not they would put a pump out there at the yacht yard. And when I did that, I started looking at some of the equipment that's available. Those people evidently, they told me that they were very experienced in that, and then one of the marinas that they operate down in Maryland, that they were putting a pump out in. And I said, that would really warm the hearts and minds of Sag Harbor people if you put a pump out there, at least for your people, and I don't know where that's gone.
Yeah, well, they'd have to then provide, some form of service to do that, because obviously when you have people that are, engaging their Y valves in the wrong position, where they're set to discharge overboard in areas that are clearly no discharge versus going into their holding tanks and then having to just simply call the pump out boat operator, then they work very efficiently connecting the hose up to the receptacle at the top of the deck and,
Pump it out.
Pumping that out. They can get a couple of flushes in there and, clean that tank. If they're not even going to that trouble, you know what I mean? Having something land-based is helpful, but they probably have to set something up where the personnel of the marina is going to handle that function, and take care of it, because a lot of it is just having respect for the environment and taking that extra step to do it versus just throwing the valve. Some vessels, depending upon when they were built, it automatically goes into that holding tank, and you literally have to go down to the engine room to throw a valve and a discharge pump to get it to go. So you really have to go out of your way to pump overboard. But some of the older ones, it's just as simple as just that diverter valve, whether it's going to the tank or going overboard. And that's troubling, especially when you have a free service.
Right.
That's so readily available.
The one thing I've heard is I've heard different things. I've heard that guy, what his name eludes me, he'll be there until 10 o'clock at night, and then I've had other people say they've come back in at 6 o'clock at night and there's no pump out answering. But basically, I think that they really work hard, and I've heard reports of the enormous number of gallons that has been pumped out using the pump out boats. So there's really a lot of work that's being done there. I think it would be great. I don't know about a traveling barge. I mean, would that be something that would be
Well,
a
I think what-
Southampton town benefit,
You
or
know,
how
what is
would
it?
we do
That
that?
works off of logistics, because I mean, just from understanding the program, you know, you've got certain amount of gallonage that you can handle on the individual pump out vessels, and then you have to take it to a spot to offload it where it's cost effective. And you know, if you had a big barge or something where you could just keep feeding it and then move that barge and have that barge
Yeah.
pumped out, it becomes more cost effective, and you're working logistics, you could get more done. If you have to stop what you're doing and you have to make a big run
What,
to
the
empty
pump
that
out?
boat out, you know what I
Well-
mean? You just gotta,
Our tank for the offloading from the pump out boats is right there at Marine Park. So it's not far away. You
so
know,
that should be fine, you know?
it should
just-
be fun. It's not like they have to go over the hill and down the valley.
See,
or
like when you
whatever.
get to the western part of our town, you don't have that capability. When
Right.
you get to the western part of the trustees, responsibilities.
yeah.
You don't have that, that ability, and you end up having to move vessels around. And we have some facilities to the west where you have a lot of vessels that they have heads on board, and there are people that do spend a lot of time there, and you have to kind of keep track. Are they
Where
Are they calling
going?
the pump out boat regularly, or have they adjusted their Y valve to just pump overboard, or are they, just discharging? And I think that, there's got to be a certain level of respect for complying with regulations in the environment by the,
Well, the proof is going to be in the pudding to see whether or not we actually get test results that show we have a decrease in the amount of, pathogens that we detect at Windmill Beach and right there along the wharf. I look forward to seeing that. And I like the idea of self-pump out. And when I went up, I think it's off of Gull Road up in East Hampton, boats just come right, just like gassing up. It just
Pump it out.
pull right up next to the dock, only you're offloading instead of onloading. And I've not seen the one over at the canal, but I'd like to, because I think, even if we had to sacrifice a couple of different slips right there at Marine Park, so there'd be easy access for boats to come in and offload, I definitely think that would be worth the investment.
I think the pump out program is great.
Yeah, I do.
The folks, guys running the boats, I think they do a great job. They provide a great service. I make it as easy and, for everybody and accommodating. It's a great service to have, and they've done a great job. And I think without that, your bar graphs would be substantially worse.
It would be worse.
than when you're out.
And everything I hear about these guys, or this one guy, is just great. So,
It's a great program. We should really be making sure that is shored up forever and expanded upon, and whatever they need to keep that going is important.
Okay.
So as far as the funding asks, I think internally we're gonna have a discussion and we'll let you know.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation.
All right, there are no more listed discussions, but we do have public portion. So let's open up the public portion part. If anybody on Zoom wants to address the board for 3 minutes for whatever topic, please put your hand up so that we can see that. If there's anybody here in the room that would you like to address the board?
Hi, it's Mark McIntyre. I just had a question or two, and perhaps you could entertain it on the budget we just heard about. I get the point that it's budget neutral between proposed 25 and current 24, but what is the proposed budget in terms of dollars?
Well, we're going to be having a full public hearing on that on the 15th.
Okay,
So you're jumping ahead of our public hearing.
I'm two in front of, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I was also going to ask about the trust, I guess, has a balance of about 1.7, if I heard correctly. Where'd that money come from?
that money has been coming from our trust revenues, and from permitting fees and 4x4 fees and all the activities that the trust engages in for our permit fees. Our permit fees,
So it's just ongoing revenue that's.
it's ongoing revenue. The number is was pointed out by our comptroller, Mr. Olivo, is not, it's not an accurate till the end of the year, because the
Right.
revenue slows up
Right,
and then
right.
the expenses come rolling in. But those are the revenues that are derived from the trust itself, from permit fees that the trust collects. Okay, it's a separate entity. So you got two things going on. You have funds coming in from the general fund, which is where you're getting basically a budget neutral portion of the exercise, because you have you have services that have been provided and paid for by the general fund, but on a non-transparent basis. Now what you're doing is you're showing what the relative value to those services are. You're providing them to the district, but you're memorializing those services and giving them back to the general fund as a budget neutral exercise. But now you have to provide those services because the trust has suffered from erosion in various different ways. One, of some of our properties that we own along the shoreline naturally as a result of storms and sea level rise. And two, based on things that have been taken away from the trust for services that the trustees need to provide services to the people of the town. Now you have that on the table where everybody sees what's needed, what the relative costs of that are, and that everybody's got a responsibility to do the right thing. And people can see that transparently on their tax bill. You know, whatever their relationship is to just under $2 million to whatever the town's budget is, $140 million, whatever that percentage is, they'll be able to clearly see that. And the trust will have that clearly memorialized. Now, the other side of it is that the trust has its ability to generate revenue on its properties. That is very important because that helps hold the line on taxes for people. Because when we are engaging in, say, bonding, where we're going to do some bonding, where we're going to work with the town, that trust revenue is what's going to help pay the debt service and the debt service back. But those are for things that everybody in this town enjoys. But you now have an ability where a board of trustees has visibility to say, okay, we're all set with where we're at on the services that we need to operate. We know we're not going to be suffering for any further erosion of that because these numbers are set. The town taxpayer sees that transparently, and now the trustees can make better decisions on what they're doing with their trust revenue. Because remember, if there's a lawsuit or something that's going on that the trust is engaging in to reclaim or protect property that's owned by that trust, or somebody is taking an action that's infringing upon the rights of the people of the town, maybe it's a waterways access issue. You've got to have those funds to be able to deal with those issues. And you always have to have a strong fund balance. And that's why the town was set up with a system of checks and balances with the trustees and the town board, where, like Trustee Warner was saying, everybody, you need each other. Everybody needs each other and has to have a respect for each other's authority for the town to function properly. And you could see this evidenced in many, many court cases, even in modern day times, of where there was the reliance of things that the trustees hold near and dear that were granted to the trustees dating back hundreds of years, but yet protect us all today in modern day times.
Yes. Just one final thought. You all jump into executive session all the time. Deal with part litigation. The cost of that litigation, how's that paid for?
Sometimes it's borne by the trustees. It depends. Sometimes there's insurance contracts that pay for that. It all depends on different scenarios, and the trustees have an assortment of all the above.
Right. But within the budget, we can afford all that.
Within the budget, we can afford that, and that's the reality and why you cannot allow fund balances to drop. Everybody needs a rainy day fund. John Q. Citizen out there needs a rainy day fund. The trust has to operate from a position of strength, not weakness. And the first, line of defense to that is to stop the bleeding, memorialize the services of what you have to provide, just to provide the day-to-day things that are needed to keep this town running the right way. And then you can make decisions based on how much you need in fund balance. I'm sure the town has millions and millions and millions of dollars set aside in balances to handle major rainy days that may come its way. And the trustees need to do the same thing with the trust properties. But you also got to be on sound financial ground because, look, if you don't know how you're making your next mortgage payment, it's probably not a good idea that you think about putting a swimming pool in. So before the trustees can really say, well, let's take on $500,000 in debt service because we have a pier that's ready to fall into this bay and no one can go crabbing or snapper fishing on it. So we're going to take on X number of dollars a year additional. You kind of got to know where you're at, and you got to be able to provide those services, and that's where we're getting now. We're getting on solid financial ground, and then you'll only see more good come out of that, and that's going to benefit everybody in this town and the environment, and that'll be generationally. Because just do the research. The trustees have struggled for 400 years, and look at other trustee boards that are not far from where we are. You know, their citizens of their townships are suffering losses to things that they've traditionally and historically done because trustees got into financial situations in years past and have had to make decisions that had generational effects moving forward. So we want to stop that, get this board on solid ground, running properly so that we can provide those services and protections to the people of the town for generations to come. This is step one.
And nothing of what you've been able to do with achieving a tax, your line on the tax bill, is really going to, over time, and I know I'm talking beyond 25, but over time, increase your budget. It seems like this is just, the town board doesn't have an appetite, this is my speculation, to see that kind of day come. And,
Well,
and you'll just keep at the,
Well, the
whatever the
reality
budget
is-
number is, you'll stay there rather than over time have the budget for the trust.
Well, that's no, you can say that from a theoretical standpoint,
Right.
because everybody is bound by their tax caps, right? Everybody has tax caps, and we're sharing the same tax cap with the town. So, you know, there is a mechanism for, you don't know what egregious scenario is going to play out for the town or for anybody. I've had a lot of wise people tell me everything's temporary, Scott, you know, and there's a certain amount of truth to that. You don't know, we get blasted by some major storm, and you know we got to fix a lot of infrastructure, and we got to raise some capital somehow. But you know, who's opposed to that? People are not interested in wasting money, especially their hard-earned tax dollars. But when it comes to protecting things that are greatly affecting our quality of life, our property values, and why we're here, if you got to spend $5 or $4 or $10 for something, I don't know many people that are opposed to that. However, it actually is a tremendous benefit to the taxpayer, because when you have the trustees able to make better decisions on that trust revenue, you can get a lot of things done without having to increase the taxes on the general fund. But you have to let the trustees that are making that decision be on sound financial ground while they are deliberating on that. To your point, you've got to have a big rainy day fund set up on the legal side if it's a lawsuit that you have to take on, and it's not something that's covered by your insurance. You got me? So these are the aspects that are balanced here on a regular basis very sensibly. So yeah, it shouldn't be gigantic or any increases other than what is within tax caps, unless there's something that's absolutely egregious that occurs.
Thanks.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. All right. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Or another gentleman right here?
So I want to introduce myself, y'all. I'm Eric Horsberg, and I'm one of the founders of East End Explorer, along with my wife Beth. She can't be here right now. She's a professor at the University of Georgia. She's a teacher, educator, teaching elementary school teachers. We have a educational program where we take kids out on the marsh. None of this is my notes because I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you. Trustee launch sites for our program to safely access the waters and coastal natural areas. I'm from Long Island. I grew up here. I've been coming here my whole life. I was born here. I live in Georgia now because my wife's career is there, and that's where my kids go to school. Since I was a young boy, fishing and clamming, crabbing has been my life. I feel very fortunate to be able to make my living sharing that with kids today. I'm a captain. It's my 14th summer as a guide here. We started this program in 2018. Before that, I was just doing family guided tours. We mostly use kayaks to engage the kids in the water. We have an internship program with Stony Brook where marine science and environmental studies students are the staff that help us. We work with Stony Brook. Again, I'm a little nervous right now because my livelihood's on the line right here. I talked to Chip about what's going on. I want everybody to know that we're here doing this program, and we really hope to be able to utilize trustee waters and land as safe access points to take these kids out into nature and teach them what inspired me, getting them what our slogan is: their feet wet, hands dirty, and minds blown. We practice leave no trace principles. We do cleanups of locations that we go to. We never leave a spot worse than we found it. It's always better. Our mission is to get kids out in nature. No devices are on our program. People are out engaged in nature. They're not holding phones. They're holding dip nets and paddles. We also want to instill safe, water safety practices. We try to normalize the use of PFDs. You go out on the water and a lot of folks are on kayaks, paddleboards without life jackets. You'll never see any of our people that way. In fact, we wear our life jackets, myself included, all day, every day, even when not in a boat, when engaging with these kids. It's to normalize safe behaviors. We encourage children, parents, everybody to get out of their comfort zone, to explore what I think is the real Hamptons. I think a lot of y'all agree with me, the waters are what we're really about. Since before $400 t-shirts, that's what the Hamptons is really about. We get people digging in the mud, holding crabs, get them to embrace the beauty of nature. I have a long list of why environmental education is vital, but I think a lot of you guys are for this stuff. You understand why it's important. Just to go over some basics, we're instilling sustainable practices for our youth. A lot of the people that come out with me will be landowners here. They are, just like a lot of folks, their legacy. They have been here generations, and they will inherit waterfront land. We teach them why it's important to, not develop your natural shorelines. Why it's important to switch over to good septic systems. Why, conserving our shellfish population is important. We tour Conscious Point Shellfish Farm on kayaks and explain to them the benefits of aquaculture. We dig clams and we watch them dig back down just so they can see that there's ecosystems below the mud. We're all about just hands-on immersion. Again, I'm missing a lot of things, but we work with Southampton Youth Association 3 to 4 times a summer. We take out their groups. We have a large fleet of kayaks. We're able to get them on the water with staff safely. Some of these kids who live across the street from me go on the water 1 time a year, and that's with me. I'm proud to say that we help facilitate that. We work with Stony Brook. Dr. Kirk Retch has sponsored our internship program. We have students for 3 years now that take course credit at Stony Brook to come work with me. We visit their marine lab and go on their research boat once a week, and their semester C program, I help facilitate that. We work with Shinnecock. We do their Indigenous Perspectives paddles. We've been providing that for a number of years now. There's also a program through Shinnecock where we take a group of blind people out paddling, and we're doing that again on Saturday if the wind dies down. I work with SOFO, provide boats for their programs, provide guided trips, and provide use of my vessel as well. The North Sea Maritime Center, which is an up-and-coming organization, we provide boat trips for them. Southampton History Museum, we've provided 4 kayak trips a year for the last 3 years, not this year. And then we're in discussions for Laconic Baykeeper for next year. Pete and I have been talking for a few years, and we're trying to put something together, seeding off of my boat. Laconic Land Trust, John Halsey would love to do some programs with us, and the Shinnecock boys and girls, I spoke to them for the summer about some new stuff for next year. Access to these spots will allow me to do more of these programs. Without that, access gets really limited, and we can't take these groups out and get them on the water and teach them things. We also donate a lot of services to fundraisers and things like that. So I'll end it with, we'd just like to discuss entering into a licensing agreement that will allow the use of trustee managed launch sites. We have all of our insurances in place. The trustees are named as additionally insured. New York State has sanctioned everything that we do. We have a number of community members willing to speak out on our behalf, and write letters of support if that's required. And I'm happy to provide any further details about our program, answer any questions.
So thank you for that, since, I'm sorry, Trustee Malone.
Well, since I'm the trustee of the area, we haven't met yet, and obviously you gave a long list of things there, and I think not the whole board, but I think we all do generally support what you do. However, I think we've also heard a lot of negative things about what has happened, and obviously all I'm going to say is I think you have some fences to mend with people like the museum and others who there's some friction there. So obviously, before you come to us for anything, I think you should be talking to the museum and talking to other entities to get their permission first before you ask us for our permission. I don't know if you want to add to that.
With all due respect, I'm not requesting anything from the museum. You guys manage multiple sites.
But they own the property.
I'm not. No. This is a separate conversation. I'm not talking about Conscious Point at all.
Okay.
Okay, so that being said, I think what you need to do is, perhaps have a conversation with, special counsel. We need to figure out what our standards are. We have other licensing agreements with other entities, and there are standards that we need. This is a public portion, part of this. This is a more, discussion that's more specific to a licensing agreement and what everybody's expectations are for where and what's going to be occurring, what the requirements are going to be. So I think that this discussion should happen
Behind closed doors.
Yeah, not a public portion. It's not really.
I just want to introduce myself.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is my only chance to.
That's fine. That's fine. But we can drill down on the specifics as you
I'd love to.
craft what it is that you want to do.
Well,
And we see.
one of the duties as the trustees is to preserve and protect the maritime heritage of this town. And being, a lifelong resident and generationally here, and being a fisherman and a bayman and a waterman, it's kind of interesting to see you bringing young people to the table to learn about what my life has been for the last 50 years. So being that said, I think, you can come up with a plan, work with our attorney on certain parameters, certain areas you want to use, and that present it to work with Joe, and if you want to have other people with you and talk about what you want to do and what your aspects and, of your program, and put it together and then represent to us as a plan where you want to use certain areas, launching ramps. Because the town is a big town. It goes all the way to Eastport from East Hampton. So you got a lot of waters here, a lot of different water. To confine yourself to North Sea Harbor, you're only seeing a fraction of what we have to offer in this town. But to be able to do it right and to do it with certain, the blessing of our board and basically, within the parameters of a licensing agreement, I think that's most important.
Right, and then you can make that presentation with the specifics
Yeah.
to the board, and that's
That was my overall point.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we did speak, and I did recommend that Eric come in, and because ironically I did the Surfers for Healing just prior to meeting with you, which is that's when you take children with autism surfing, and it's the same kind of thing. You're exposing kids to get away from their phone, for all intents and purposes, and enjoy, like Ed said, the maritime heritage that we have out here. And I think it's so important. I think it's probably one of the most important aspects of the trustees is to promote young people to want to protect this watershed that we have. So I am 100% for the program. I know we had some issues that you and I discussed in private that I think we can easily overcome. And I don't think we have to wrap in too many entities, and I do believe that you can work directly with us to come up with a nice, tight-knit proposal of this is what I want to do, this is the service that I want to provide, and how can we go about this so that most user groups are okay with it. So I'm very happy you came in, and I think we can go forward with it. And like I said, we'll work with Joe Lombardo and possibly your attorney or somebody that you'd like to represent you if you want them to double check it. But I recommend that we get it nice and tight so that you're not on a knife's edge for next season.
Yes, thank you very much. All right. Well, thank y'all for your time. I'm glad to see everybody, like I said, face to face.
Thank you, Eric.
all right. Is there anybody else for public portion? No one on Zoom? Okay, so let's move over to the applications for permits, and we have a walk-on also. So I have trustee resolution 2024-244, modification for Susan Kurland, 23 Bayside Avenue, East Quogue, New York, tax map 900-373-2-28. Worked on this at work session. It does meet Blue Book, and it does need to be modified. Recommended. Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution 2024-245, first renewal of application of Henry Hildreth, 50 Little Neck Road, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-234-4-16, body of water, Old Fort Pond. This is a first-time renewal. We worked this over a year ago at work session. It was all compliant to what we need, so I recommend its approval. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Barrett.
Ma-
All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution 2024-246, application for Springville Huck LLC, 122 Springville Road, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-293-04-1, body of water, Smiths Creek. We had worked on this at work session. It's compliant to our Blue Books rules and regulations, so I recommend its approval. I need a second.
Second, trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye.
This is 2024-247, the application of Green Harbor LLC, 12 Green Street, Village of Sag Harbor, New York, SCTM number 9033-1-14, body of water, Sag Harbor Cove. This is a discussion we had with modification of the ramp on the work session. Any second on this?
Second.
Second, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2024-248, trust, this is application of Southampton Pond, Sagaponic Main Street, Village of Sagaponic, New York, body of water is the Atlantic Ocean.
Second.
Seconded, trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution 2024-249, application of Southampton Town, 425 Dune Road. This is number 900-179-2-15, body of water of the Atlantic Ocean. This is the standard bypass project that's proposed.
Second on that.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
2024-250. This is application of 68 Bethune Trust, 61 Ferry Road, Village of North Haver, body water, Sag Harbor Cove. This is construction of a personal fixed dock, 4 foot by 75 foot, giving landwards of the wetlands. This was the one that I think we
Appeal on
did an
modification.
L shape on it.
Yep.
Did I get a second on that?
Second on that.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
2051, application of Western Promises LLC, 11 Amherst Road, Village of Sag Harbor, body of water, Sag Harbor Cove. This is an existing dilapidated timber bulkhead in kind replacement.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
2024-252. Recall and amend modification application of Sunset Point Enterprises LLC, 130 Point Mecox Lane in Bridgehampton, New York, 900-134-1-7, body of water is Swan Creek, whereas on August 19, 2024, trustee resolution number 2024-2021 was adopted as follows. And this was just a railing problem we had that we rectified. It was an in-kind. The railing was put up without proper permitting.
Give me a second on that.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
2024-2053 renewal application of First MJH Real Estate Ventures LLC, 1025 Flying Point Road, Watermill, New York. Body of water is Channel Pond.
I'll second.
Seconded, trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Alright.
Trustee resolution 254-24, this is application of 237 White Road, tax number 900-76-5-36, by one North Sea Harbor. Can I have a second?
Second on that?
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye. Got trustee resolution 2024-255, application of Southampton Town, underwater land in West Hampton, New York, on the Moriches Bay. Can I get a second for this, please?
Second on that?
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Got, trustee resolution 2024-256, authorizing president to sign a letter of authorization for cashing for boat ramp access for aquaculture.
I'll second.
Seconded trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye.
Have resolution 2024-257, authorizing president to sign property access agreement with Optimum at Marine Maintenance Office at 22 Jackson Avenue for internet service for our marine maintenance.
Second on that?
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution, 2024-258, notice of public hearing for the amendment of Blue Book A340, amending the management of the products of the waters of the town of Southampton, Article 2, Section 10, hard clams. Monday, October 7th, 2024 at 1 p.m. the hearing will start.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Trustee resolution 2024-259, wildlife preservation piping program, acknowledges payment from the village of Southampton, which we've done yearly for the last couple of years.
I'll second.
So,
Seconded trustee McLaughlin, all in
Favor?
favor?
Aye. Trustee resolution 2024-260, authorizes purchase of coal patch for filling potholes on trustee roads. I need a second on that.
Second.
Seconded trustee Parsons, all in favor?
Aye. Trustee resolution 2024-261, warrant for number 15 of 2024 for the sum of $1,541.94. The checks read as 84 Lumber Corp. 622.79. Call ahead $50. Home Depot 152.22. Inner Science 122.50. Lopers Equipment Corporation $567.04, and WB Masons Inc. 27.39 for a total of $1,541.94. I recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded trustee Parsons, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee resolution 2024-262, adopt the 2025 trustee budget.
The proposed budget.
Proposed budget. Need a second on that?
Second.
Seconded trustee McLaughlin, all in favor?
Aye. And we have a walker.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to walk a
I'll second that.
seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I have a resolution approving memorandum of agreement, whereas the town of Southampton and trustees of the freeholds and commonality of the town of Southampton are authorized to enter into cooperative agreements for the performance of their respective functions, powers, and duties, or for the provision of services, and whereas the Board of Trustees and the town of Southampton have negotiated a memorandum of agreement related to same. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves a memorandum of agreement between the town of Southampton and the trustees of the freeholds and commonality of the town of Southampton, and authorizes the board president to execute said agreement. I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay,
Good job.
thank you. Good job, everybody.
Thank you.
Getting somewhere. History in the making.
Yes, thank you. I just thank you, Scott, for all you've done for this. I know we spoke many times on this, so it's an historic day. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It only took 10 years.
Instead of grind.
Wait till tomorrow. We had,
I was taller. I had a lot more hair.
yeah,
Less gray.
didn't have any less energy though.
No, same amount of energy, pretty much. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Any other? I know it's been one of those days. Anybody have any other discussions that they need to get out there?
Just an update on the locks. They're still broken down, and the water's running there with the tides that we've been having for the last 3-4 days with the moon and the wind. It's been a tough navigation through there. Basically recommended not to travel when the tide's running hard. So just beware. And we will update anybody or everybody when we get from the county with H&L.
Well, I'll see H&L probably within the next week, and
Yeah.
we'll have a good
Yeah.
idea where we're at with it.
Yeah, so yeah.
I've heard a month.
Yeah, they've been on it for at least a week or
Yeah, they're going as best as they can, fast as they
It's
can.
not an easy project.
Not easy.
No.
Anybody else have any?
I just have a quick one. Instead of the cold patch, remember I mentioned to Scott that I called SFA and they have on hand an RCA mix that has concrete and blacktop mixed in with the mix, and they bill us out. They at $20 a yard pickup. I think we could save a considerable amount of money on some of these trustee roads if we utilize that service.
Can we use it around the water? That's the question, because a couple of these projects are gonna be done over in Cold Springs, on the road.
He has also an RCI blend that does not have the blacktop mixture in it.
Okay, yeah.
It has the concrete mixture in it, so maybe for those projects. But I'd like to try it on some of the upland roads instead of blowing all this money on cold patch. At $20 a yard,
Well,
I think it'll go a lot farther.
The problem with cold patch, any time you put it by the water, it floats up.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay there very
This is
long.
it's similar to what I was talking about with the fines blend.
Yeah,
I have an ability through SFA to source that upstate,
okay.
but he believes that this is a product for the short term to try, and it's what he uses for all his understory blends on all his roads. And he's got it on hand in his place, and he's willing to bill it out at $20 a yard versus, I don't know how much is a skid of how much is a skid of cold patch? It's a couple grand, right?
Well, we gotta go through procurement. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we need to take a look at procurement and see exactly what the total quantity is that we're gonna need and what it is that we're spending. The unfortunate thing is these are all Band-Aids, right?
No, they're all Band-Aids, what I'm
Everything's a
saying,
Band-Aid.
but instead of spending this much money on cold patch, which is not gonna work on these roads anymore.
Right, we still gotta go through procurement though. We still have to make sure for the quantity that we're getting, that we're passing the right resolutions and we're doing that.
Yeah.
So we, not opposed to trying the material, it's just we still gotta go through the procurement procedure.
We should ask Tim, the head of marine maintenance, how much material he's gonna use on a project, and then price out, say if it's, 20 yards or 10 yards, whatever it is, get a price for that from SFA.
Yeah, like I said, Barry said $20 a yard.
And then we
pickup,
could-
so we're
and then we
good.
could-
But we need to know how many yards we're gonna
Yeah.
ultimately need.
Price out a certain
Right, because
amount.
we're gonna need to pass a resolution so that we're
Yeah.
dotting the i's and crossing the t's. So
But we can stockpile it as well if we have too much. I mean, it's not something, if you have put it in the dump trailer, you utilize it in the dump trailer, and you have too much, you can still store it the next time you
Yeah.
gotta use it.
It's not something that's gonna harden up and they can't get to.
No, it's not
Right,
like
let's check with procurement
Yeah.
just to keep us
Yeah.
dotting i's and crossing t's, and then we'll go from there. So that's a great idea though. Great
Maybe have
thought.
Tim go over and look at it.
Yeah, to look at it, we can make a call
See what
over
the
to
material,
the
how the
comptroller.
material, the consistency of the material.
We just check our procurement guidelines, just make sure we follow it, that's all.
Yep.
That's all we gotta do. Anybody else have anything over here?
I'm good.
Are we still need more exec, or we finished with exec? So we could just, this time we could do a straight up motion to adjourn without exec.
All right, I'll
We're
second
saving
that.
the taxpayer money already. All right, seconded by trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a great afternoon, everybody.